Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm back with another tutorial about AI, Ollama and Next.js. In this tutorial, we are going to create an AI chatbot from scratch using the technologies I mentioned like Next.js, Ollama and AI SDK from Vercel. So what exactly this AI chatbot can do? As you can see, there is three options here. There's three suggestions, prompts that we could use right here. So I'm going to go with the first one. Keep in mind that you can type anything you want. It's an actual chatbot, but I'm going to stick with this and maybe tweak those a little. So the first one is I need help with my math homework and there is equation. So I'm going to send it over. And as you can see, it's pretty fast and gives you the answer right away, and the answer checks out. So I'm going to chat with it a little bit so you guys can see it could flex. It doesn't just follow those questions. So I'm going to say explain it to me like I'm 5. As you can see, it's going to kind of change the tone and the words that's being used in the response. So I'm going to change the topic. The next topic that we can write and test is write a story about a horse with dreams. I know it sounds a bit, I don't know, weird, but it's AI, whatever. So as you can see, it's generating the story for us, and it's quite long. So eventually I'm going to ask it to summarize it for me. So I will wait for it to finish. Now I can say summarize it for me in one sentence. Let's see. Yes, as you can see, it's quite summarized and it's in a sentence, so it works too. And the other thing we can do is to kind of ask for some trip advice, like what are some popular tourist destinations in Europe. And as you can see, it comes up with a list of the places that you could visit in Europe: Paris, Rome, Barcelona, and so on. So as you can see, the list is long. I'm going to pick like the first one. I like the first one. Plan a trip for me to there. Let's see. Yeah, he knows that I'm going to Paris. It's planning everything for me, and as you can see, the chatbot kind of does whatever you want, and you can do whatever you want with it actually. So I'm going to show you guys how to create this chatbot from scratch. Before we go any further, we should check some requirements and check if you have them installed on your computer. The first one is Ollama. If you don't have Ollama on your computer, you can check my other video about how to install Ollama on your Windows in under just like 7 minutes or so. To check that, you can open command prompts and type Ollama -v, and you can see right away my Ollama version is 0.5.4 and I have Ollama installed. So the other way is to check the Ollama icon on your Windows. If it's not there, it's probably somewhere right here. If it's not, then your Ollama is not running or it's not installed. The next thing that we need is kind of a basic requirement for the Next.js project, which is Node.js. And I'm going to check my Node version here too, and as you can see, I have the version 22.11.0. So everything is fine, and we should be able to move on to the next section of the tutorial. In the next step, we need to set up our Next.js project files. In order to do that, you can go ahead and use this command here, but this command doesn't config the stuff that we want and we are going to use. So I'm going to switch over here to this repository which I've created earlier, and it's a boilerplate with TypeScript, Next.js, and a style component, I guess. So, and it's already cleaned up, so it's ready for us to go ahead and dive in. First of all, I'm going to open the command prompt in and kind of go to the folder of choice which I want my project to be, and copy the link of this GitHub project here. Come here and type git clone, paste the repository's address here, and just type the destination folder name. I'm going to call it YTAI chatbot Ollama, and we're going to wait for it to finish its cloning the project. So the cloning is done. We are going to open that project folder, which is this one, and open the Visual Studio in that directory like this. So after we've done this, we need to run a command that installs all of the packages that are in the package.json and set up the projects for us. So I'm going to run npm I and wait for it to finish installing all the packages that it requires. Now that everything is installed, we can go ahead and run the project by typing run npm run dev. As you can see, the project is running. I'm going to create a multi window here, as you can see it here. So this one goes here. So we got the project on the right hand and the coding environment on the left hand side. So everything should be fine and we should be ready to go to the next step. Now that the basic setups for the project is done, we can go ahead and add more dependencies that we need for the AI chat to be working. First of those is AI SDK provided by Vercel, and as you can see, you can use this command here to actually install it. So I'm going to copy that command, come here and create a new window, a terminal, and type in the command here. Also, I'm going to include some other packages that we are going to need. The next, I'm going just to separate them by space. This command is going to install some separate packages. It's not going to only install the AI one. So I'm pressing a space. We are going to need the Ollama AI provider and also the React icons. So press enter and wait for it to install everything from those packages. Now that we have everything that we need, we can go ahead and start coding. So I'm going to close this one and come right here. First thing we need to do is to update the colors file. As you can see, it's empty and we are going to need some colors which we are going to import from this file. So I'm just going to copy those colors and paste them here. We have a background, primary, secondary, a color for the new button, and a white and a black. So I'm going to save this one, and we need another thing for the fonts. So I'm just going to create a new file here called fonts.ts, and we are going to create a profile for the Google fonts here so we can kind of import them after on in our project. I'm just going to copy those codes here. This is just font configuration. You can just tweak this as you want, use other fonts. You can go to the Google Fonts site and actually see what they have on their stock and use it right here. So I'm just going to save this. And now that we have the fonts, we should go to the layouts right here. We need to have a new div here that kind of wraps around our application, and we need it because we are going to use it later on for scrolling, auto scrolling when the AI responds. So I'm going to create a new div here and give it the ID of Bimbo app. So it's for our application, so it should be unique. And the class name is going to be actually I'm going to use the class name of the font here, so it's going to apply that font to all of the applications. So I'm going to say class name, and I'm going to use the Poppins, and as you can see, Poppins font dot class name, and it's going to apply that on our application, and it's going to wrap that around the whole content of the page. Okay, I'm going to save that. Now that we have that, we can actually come up here and change the title to Bimbo and give it a description: AI chatbot, free, secure, local, something like that. And as you can see, it's going to change those stuff. You can go ahead and change the icon too, but I'm not going to go that further because I don't have any icons or anything for this project. We are going to edit the global.css file to add some style to our application, the global style, which will be imported at top of our application. I'm going to copy the styles that we need and paste it right here. As you can see, there are some basic and default styles right here for the body, for the box sizing, some standard stuff. So I'm just going to ignore them and paste my own CSS right here. I'm going to give you an overview of this. These are some kind of padding and margin to 0 and boxing size. These are some standard stuff that you do to kind of unset every default default styling on the objects, on all of the objects, as you can see here. This one hides actually the scroll bar of the browser. This is HTML. Basically in these two and maybe this one, I'm trying to achieve a kind of box that doesn't grow with the screen, or actually overflows on the screen. It's just going to wrap a box around the total area of the screen, and it's not going to get any further than that. And basically anything that goes beyond that dimensions is going to be scrollable, and that's good for us because we are going to have a chat input right at the bottom, which is fixed, and we are going to have later on a position absolute welcome page that sits right at the center. So we want to actually control the dimensions on this program. And as you can see, I'm giving this app a background here too. So I'm just going to save it, and boom, there you go. It all changed. The text color is black, so it doesn't matter at the moment. We are going to change that later on. Now that we have this stuff, I can just close them and come here to this RC, create a new folder called components and another folder called pages and another folder called chat. So basically I'm going to have all of our components in here, and for the pages, the page components, they are going to go here, and the chat is because this is the chat section of our application. This naming is totally up to you. You can change it. You can actually create your components right in this RC. It doesn't really matter, but I rather to keep them kind of structured. So right here, I'm going to create a new file called chat page.tsx, copy this one, create a React functional component, and there you go. Actually, I don't have the row here, so I'm just going to have to import it. Row is basically a predefined styled component, which its display is set to flex. So I have a component pre-written for that, so I'm just going to create a new folder here called common. We are going to use and actually save the components that are going to be reused again in this folder. So I'm pasting this one right here. As you can see, you can actually have this row component from the Github, and as you can see, it has some props passing to it. So you can set the margin left, right, top, bottom, and some other CSS properties. But in the end, it's just a component. As you can see here, it's just a div component with the display set to flex, and you can kind of customize everything beyond that. So when it's saved, we are going to inherit from that row, and this one is now a row too, so everything comes down here. It's going to be displayed as a flex box. This one is a flex box for this page. And one more important thing to keep in mind, because we are using the app router from the Next.js, you should kind of every route is a server route, so you should kind of specify here that this is a client. So by saying use client, and save this one, and kind of say chat here. And actually I'm going to go to global.css and set the color. Oh, we don't have the variables here, so I'm just going to say white. So we have a basic display of white text here. And get back here, say chat. Now we are going to use this page for this directory, which is page, the main page of the application. So I'm going to import it here and hit save, and as you can see, when you visit the first page or the index of this website, you see this component, which is the chat page, is being loaded. So with that done, we can go to the next page, actually close this too. And now that we have this, we need to create that welcome suggestions for the prompts and the title of our application. So I'm just going to come right to the chat And actually we have something messed up. The comment folder is under the chat, so I'm just going to kind of drag it and drop it in the components. Hit move, it's going to update the path to that, so that's now working as intended. As you can see, we have the comment and the project, the pages, the chat. I'm going to create a new component for the welcome page, or actually get it started, and call it started. What a surprise. .tsx, and do the same here. It's a row 2, and there you go. Get started. I'm just going to write something here so I can import it. Here we are. So we have the get started loaded here, and this one is actually going to be a position absolute component, which is going to be right around here at the center. So let's go ahead and create the styling for that. We need to get back to the chat page and do some styling here before we get started on the get started page. So in here we need to set the position to relative, because every object is going to be floating around here. We want it to be inside the boundaries of this component or div right here, and it's going to be width of the page is going to be 100% SVW, which means 100% of the width of the viewport, but the small one. Sometimes there is some browser features or like scroll bars, stuff like that is going to pop out at the side of the browser, and this SVW makes sure that the length of or the height of that object is reduced from the available space. So this is a pretty good way to keep everything inside the view, even if something is just like pushing it or making it smaller. And we are going to give it the min height of 100 SVH. SVH is the same as this one, and give him, let's say you are using this on your mobile and you just have an input, you click on it, there is a keyboard is going to pop on the bottom, so your screen going to be in half or like 60%. So this one is going to calculate all of those stuff and kind of reduce it. There is some other variations to this, like VH is working, and VH doesn't actually care about anything covering the page. It's just going to calculate the actual size of the screen. And you can have the DVH, which kind of is more dynamic, and actually with those keyboard situations, this one doesn't actually give anything away and makes sure that all of those stuff is actually calculated. We're going to go with the SVH, and next we are going to set the color to the white, which we already have done before, but I'm going to use the variables here. We didn't have access to variables in the global.css. I'm going to set this white here and go to global and just remove this page, remove this line. And next we need to set the height also to fit content. We have set this one here, so we are going to make sure that that this component is going to cover all this way, like top to the bottom, and if anything else comes in it, it fixes its size to it, so it doesn't go to the scrolling mode. It just keeps growing with the content and keeps growing. We are going to do the scrolling in another div, which we gave it the ID of the Bimbo app. Alright, so I'm going to hit save here, and as you can see, the text here just got fixed, and go back to this get started. Right here we need some elements in this page to actually get us going. The first one is the get started itself. This is going to be position absolute. As I said before, we are going to get to that in a bit. So we're going to need a title, title element. It's going to be h1, and also we are going to need a thing that holds our suggestion or the prompts. We are going to call it holder element. This one is a row object, row component. The next one is going to be suggestion. Suggestion is basically the prompt that we saw in the first in the start of the video that you could click on and get the prompt on your input. So we're going to call this suggestion elements, and this one is a div. That's all for this component. Right down here, we are going to need some stuff as props to be passed to this component. Like, first of them, now that we are using TypeScript, we should actually define the type for those stuff. So we are going to need as a function called setPrompt, which I'm going to set function here for now. This function is going to be passed from this page, and this one is actually giving us the ability to manipulate the input of the user. So when you click on any of the items that you see here, it's going to set that into the input state. And the other thing we need is a boolean called active, so we can decide to either show or hide this get started page. As you can see, I'm going to destructure them here and go here. So right down here, we are going to have some stuff to put here. So like title, holder, and the suggestion. We are going to start with this one. Since we are inheriting from this row, we can set some custom properties here. Like we can set the AI, which is item aligns, align item, sorry, bottom, border radius, cursor, flex direction, flex, or stuff like that. As you can see, these are all coming from this file. As you can see here, we have this kind of custom properties that are defined here, as you can see. So I'm just going to give this one an active, which we are going to define over here, which shows if it should be kind of showing or not. So I'm passing this down. I'm coming here and define this variable on this style component, which is keep in mind, if you are using TypeScript, you only have to do this stuff like defining the types here. If you are not using TypeScript, you don't have to define these types. So I'm passing the active here, and it's going to be a boolean. The reason that we name these variables with a $sign is because we want to filter them from being passed down to the actual component when the page shows up on the browser's end side. When you name them like this, they will be filtered out, and they will be only used for the styling purposes and won't be shown actually on the component itself. So I'm going to come here, set the position to absolute for this one, because we are going to center this in this component right here. Set the align items to center, justify content center, and text align to center too. Also, we are going to set the width to fit content. Left is going to be 50%, top is going to be the same. This is actually one of the methods that we use to center and div inside another div by this method, setting the top and the left to the 50% and using the translate to actually mitigate that amount that it's being kind of pushed forward or bottom. So translate minus 50% to actually cover this one, and we are going to use 80% for this. And if you are going to center this exactly the center, you should set 50 here, but we don't want it to be actually centered. We want it to be a bit higher, so I'm going to use 80 here. The next one is going to be the flex direction, because by default these rows are set on a row. Their flex direction is set on a row. We are going to use column here, and I'm going to move it up. And actually right now we are going to use this variable to set the display value here. So display is going to be like this. This is the method that you use to pass down a variable that is kind of on this component. So p.active, if it's active, we are going to set the display to flex, and if it's not, we are going to set the display to none. So this way is actually if this prop is false, it's going to be set to none, and if it's not, it's going to stay the flex. So everything should be fine, and we need a gap of 30 pixels for this. Okay, let's jump to the actual title here. But actually, before we do that, we could just go ahead, put the components in their places so we can actually see the changes in real time. So I'm going to use a row component here, which is going to use column for its flex direction, and have our title here, which is bimbo. And you should not be able to see it. I think we haven't imported it. Let me check it. Yes, we have that imported. The problem should be from somewhere else because this is position absolute. So the problem is this one is not being passed and it's actually false. So if we set that to true, you can see that actually we get our text right here. So that was the problem. All right, so now that we have the title, we should write down the you should use the holder element to actually hold the items. Okay, like this, and we are going to use a file called prompts, which contains our prompts. So I'm going to come down into statics, create a new file called prompts.ts, and use values that I've written before and paste them here. This is a pretty simple array that holds an object of prompts. They have IDs, they have titles, and they have an actual prompt to be passed down or actually sent to the AI. All right, now I'm going to save this, come here, and kind of map over the prompts. And here I'm going to use the actual suggestion element. So it's going to be something like this. It needs a key. The key is here is just a number. It's better if you guys generate some random keys for yourself, so it's unique and you don't get any errors. So p.id here, and I'm going to have a div for the title and another div for the actual prompt. Since we don't want the whole prompt to be shown on the page, if I save this, you can see the whole prompt is right there. I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be kind of only like 30 of the characters should be shown and the other ones should be replaced with 3 dots. So we are going to do it this way. We are going to check if prompts.length is more than 30. We are going to substring the string from the 0 to 30 plus 3 dots, and if it's not, just type out the prompt. There you go. As you can see, it's going to cut them in, like cut them at the 30 and append some characters at the end of it. So, and also when we click on this suggestion element, we want to set the prompt. So on the click, we are going to have a function, inline function, which sets the prompt to the prompt of this object here, like this. So this one should pretty much work, and actually we should replace this one with this. So I'm going to put it here, active to true, and set prompt is going to be filled later on. We are going to ignore the error for now. Okay, back to the styling. For the H1, I'm going to be using font size of 5 rem, margin 0. I guess already it's set to 0 in the global, so I'm not going to do that again, and set the color to the primary color. There you go. Okay, now move to the next step. It's the holder, which is going to hold the items inside itself, and we're going to set the align items on it, on center, width to 100%, gap of 80 pixels, and flex direction of column. All right, The next one is the suggestion element. This one is going to be a bit tricky because it has some, let me save this first. It has some hover and other interactions with it. So set prompt is another function. All right, you're fine with it for now. Back to this one is should be a display flex. You can actually go ahead and use a row here. I'm just going to set this one to flex, and flex direction column, padding to 20 pixels. Oops, padding to 20 pixels. Border radius is going to be 20 pixels too, with 100%. We are going to set the user selects to none, which prevents the user from selecting this text. Let's say someone comes and wants to select it like this, it doesn't allow them. And you can see if I uncomment this is not working anymore. The other reason is if you don't have this one on the PC, actually, if you double click, it's going to select a piece of that word it detects, but if you have this on, it's not going to happen again. So that's another trick for you. And cursor pointer, height of 80 pixels, and we are going to give it a transition because you just want to pop out on the screen. And if they actually kind of transfer their sizing, their width, height, or anything else, their scale, this transition is going to be coming handy. So I'm going to set it for all, and 0.15 seconds should be fine. Text align should be left. Oops. And we are going to give it a border, 1 pixel, solid, and color is going to be white. Also, it needs a gap of 10 pixels. Okay, now that we have this, we should come to these boxes, and this one was fine, but we are going to actually style the actual first div and the second div. I didn't give them an kind of a specific component like I did define for each one of these ones. I just typed down div, and the reason is I don't want to make it more complex than it is right now, and it's going to be more messy. So I'm just going to include the styling for these two inside this element right here, like this. So I'm going to refer them this way. Like this one refers to the component itself, and we are going to say any div that is on there, or actually a children of this element, is going to have these styles that will be written here. Another filter is here. We are going to actually target the first child and give it a color of colors dot white, and a font size of 0.8 rem, and the font weight of bold. And I'm going to copy this and target the last child. Now we are going to change the color to primary, and the font size, it's going to stay the same, but it's not the bold anymore. So as you can see, these are updated, but they don't react when we hover over them. So we are going to add those too. Come here, say hover, and we are going to transform this and take it a bit higher, like -8 pixels when you hover over it. There you go. And change the background color maybe to colors dot white, and this should be fine, I guess. Yes. Also, we need to change the color of this title so it fits with the background. So I'm going to copy this, paste it here again to access those when they are hovered, and actually just change it to primary and change this one to background. Oops. And it should be all fine, as you can see it right here. So this is going to be the get started section, and this is now working properly. The only thing that is missing is set prompt, which we are going to take care in the future with the actual hooks that we are going to write down. So this is the get started. It's time to get to another sections of this program. Okay, now that the get started is over, we are going to get back to the chat page and actually create the state management hook here. So in order to do that, we are going to create a new folder in the source called hooks. In there, we are going to create a new file called usechat.ts, and it's a component. So I'm going to remove those stuff, and there you go. It's a functional component. Here we are going to manage the state of the chat, and also we are going to interact with the API that we have on this project. So first of all, I'm going to define a new state called stage, and this one we are going to use effect. Here we should define a type for this, so I'm going to create a new type called chat state, and it's going to be get started or on the chat itself. So, and use that. Sorry, we are not going to use effect. We are going to use state. My mistake. And there you go. We have the state for this, and a default value should be get started. Also, we are going to need an input reference, because later on when the response from the AI is over, we need to be able to focus on the input which is at the bottom. So we are going to create we are going to manage the state of that here to input ref. So we equals use ref and HTML div element, no, or HTML input element. There you go. Actually, this should be right here, and null, and use ref. We already have it. There you go. And here now we are going to use the actual functions from the AI SDK of the Vercel. So this one is called usechat. The thing that we are going to import is also called usechat. So I'm going to temporarily mark this with some random character and import the usechat. So usechat is another hook that is provided by the Vercel's AI SDK, which you can use. So I'm going to use it here. Use chat from AI React, and right here I'm going to change its name to use AI chat. So there is a name conflicts here, and change this back to use chat. There you go. You have so many options here. We are going to need some of those. Most of those we are going to need them. We are going to need the error, stop, and input. Keep in mind that the input is being managed inside this hook, so you don't have to create a new state for that. You can use this one here. Set input, set data, set messages, the actual messages, and let's see, handle input change, handle submit is loading. Also, let's see. Okay, these are the ones that we need from this one. From this specific hook here, and we can pass down some arguments here, like API by default is going to go to this URL here, localhost 3000/API/chat. So we are not going to change that. We are going to create our API endpoint in that exact same directory. Here I'm going to give it only on error function, which logs the error for us. Use chat error. There you go. Now at the bottom we are going to need some utility functions, like a function to reset the whole thing when you click on new chat. So I'm going to call it reset, and in this we are going to first stop this. If any answer is being generated, we stop it, then set the data to a blank array, set input to empty text, and set messages to an empty array. So this is it. Also, we need a function called focus prompt, which is going to focus on the input prompt, and we are going to actually export this and use it from this. So if input ref has any values, we should use the focus function on it. So focus, just like this. The next thing that we are going to need here is to use effects, because first we want to scroll down when any message is being generated. Second, we want to focus, actually call this function when the loading state changed. Like let's say the loading state is false. We are going to go on the focus on the input. User types something, press enter, AI is responding. We are not focused on the input. As soon as the loading is switched to false again, we want to switch and focus on the input, so users can actually have a seamless chat without having to click some extra buttons. So first one is going to be a scroll to end when new messages come. So use effect, and the dependency that we want for this is the messages. And here we are going to check if the messages length is more than 0. Messages dot length is more than 0. We are going to set stage to chat, and also if we have access to the window, if it's not running in the backend. It should not, but we are going to check this anyway. So type of window is not equals to undefined. We are going to use window dot we're going to use document dot get element by ID and bimbo app, the one that we set here on this. This is the component that is being scrolled, so we can use this to actually scroll at the bottom when the new messages arrive. And scroll to top, a very large number, so it makes sure that it's at the bottom always. And if it's not, if it's greater than if less than 0, we are going to set the stage to get started, just like that. And the other one is going to be focus on input when loading changes. Another use effect here, and right down there we are going to check use the is loading as dependency, and if it's not loading, we should focus on prompt. Just like that, everything is going to be happening on this use hook, and we need to return the values that we need. We are going to need the messages, stage. Actually, we are actually importing everything from this. Input, change, input is loading. Also, error, stop function, handle submit, set input, and the input ref, because we are going to pass it onto the actual input. Reload, and reset. By the way, we don't have reload here. We are not going actually to use it, so I'm going to remove it from there. Now our hook is ready to be used. I'm going to go to the chat page, get the values that we need. So it's going to be use chat. And first of all, we need to take the set input, pass it down here to the set prompt to fix that problem. Now if you click on those, it's going to set the input, and this one is going to actually work. Or we need to set the stage for it too. So set the active. If a stage is equals to get started, this one should be active. So if I save and refresh the page, everything is good. And if I come here, set the, let's say we are on the chat, this one should not pop up. Okay, obviously there is something wrong here. I think this comes from this one. Let's see. Yeah, so it's on get started. Yes, it's going to override this one when it changes. If I kind of turn this off and refresh the page, as you can see, it's not being overwritten, so everything is good to go. And I'm going to change the default value too. Now we can actually jump ahead and go to the input section. We need to create the input section here, so I'm going to create a new folder here inside the command called input, and create a new file called chat input.tsx. This is going to be a holder for our chat inputs, and we are going to manage and actually change the state of the input here. So this chat input needs some variables and properties actually to be passed down to it, so we can actually work with them here. First, I'm going to kind of create the variables, the components that we need in this page. First one is the chat input itself. Second one is going to be a holder, because there is going to be a holder that actually keeps everything in it, the actual input and the send bit button. So I'm going to use a holder here, and we need a character counter too. So counter element, and it's a row. All right. Now I'm going to kind of place everything right down there. This one is going to need something that kind of actually shows if it's active, if it has anything in it or not. So I'm going to create a property for this called has a message. Actually, I'm going to write it down lowercase actually, and it's a boolean. So this is going to be has messages. For now I'm going to set it to false. Later on we set this based on the message counts. So, and other thing we need to do, actually I'm not going to do it right now, I'm going to skip it for now, and come here. If the prompt, let's see, do we have the prompt here? No, we don't. The prompt should be passed down from this page to this page, so I'm going to actually do those stuff. So right here we kind of define the variables that we need to be passed down to this component. First is going to be the prompt, which is a string, input ref, which is a ref. I'm going to use any here. The actual if you want to have the type here, you can use this. You see the actual type here is this. So if you are going to replace this with any, this is the correct type of it. So now that I've done it, I don't want to go back to any, so I just wanted to mention that out. There is going to be a message count, which is a number, and handle submit, which is a function. I'm not going to type the exact type of this, and same as the others. If you want the exact types, you can come here and let me see, set inputs or handle submit. This is the actual type. You can copy this and paste it over there. I'm just not going to do that. And we need can't send. It's a boolean that says if we can send or not. And also we can use some max content size and stuff like that, but I'm not going to do that here. Is loading is another thing that we need, and it's boolean. Also we need to handle input change because we have the actual input here, and it's a function too. So with those ones, I'm going to actually bring him down the top there. And now we can actually give this one a proper value. So if message count is more than 0, this one should be true. Or actually, if it's more than 0, this one should be true. If it's not, this one should be false. And here we need a key down. So on key down, we need to be able to, when we press enter, we send the prompt and actually clear the input. So this is going to be a function e, and if e dot key is equals to enter. If it's enter, we are going to first prevent the default, and second we are going to handle the submit. So it's going to actually send the message to the AI. In here we are going to check for a prompt, and if its length is more than 0, we are going to show the characters counter, and if it's not, we are just going to ignore it. Characters counter is going to be inside the span. Prompt dot length. There you go. Actually, let's see if we click on this. Oh, we haven't loaded this inside the chat page, so it should not work right now. All right, after this we are going to use the holder. And here we need to create an input, so we can pass the properties to it. Ref is going to be the input ref. If it's disabled or not is going to be determined on if it's loading or not. The next thing we need to do is to give it an ID, chat input. The value should be the prompt. On change, we'll take the function of the handle input change. And style, oh no, we are not going to style it here. And we could have it, we could give it a placeholder like ask me about stuff. There you go. And this one is giving us error, so I'm just going to mark it as any, so we can just get it over with, because like I said before, you have to go and grab the actual type here. Now that is done, we need to have a loading state for if the command is being loaded or the AI is responding, so there should be an indicator here. If it's loading, we want to show a spinner here, and if it's not loading, there should be a button to send it. Alright, for the spinner, I already have a spinner set up, so I'm just going to paste the code here into the command. As you can see, it's just a simple spinner that we are going to import right here. And for the send, actually let's set the size on this to 2M. For the send, we are going to create a separate button called send btn. So send btn.tsx. Right here, we are going to define and functional component like this. This is a this is a button, and it's going to need some properties like it's active. It's a boolean. Alright, first of all, we are going to set everything as onset, so all onset to get rid of every styling that exists on this component. Set the position to sticky, top to 10 pixels, display should be flex, align item center, justify content center, and the font size is going to be 2 rems. Also the transition is going to be all on 0.3 seconds. Color, we are going to decide on the color based on the is active. So if it's active, it should be colors dot primary, and if it's not, it should be colors dot white, just like that. And also we are going to do the same for the cursor. If it's active, cursor should be default. Sorry, it should be pointer. And if it's not, it should be default. And we are going to use that for the box shadow too. So box shadow, if it's active, we want to have a box of color primary with these values: 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 8 pixels, and 0 pixel. And if it's not, it should be empty. We don't want any box shadows for it. Also, we need a border radius of 50%. And when we hover on this, we want to change the transform, or actually scale this. So transform, scale, just like this. If it's active, then this should be 1.1, and if it's not, this should be 1. So there you go. Also here we are going to take some properties: handle submit, which is a function, and can send, which is a boolean. We are going to use those handle submit and can send right down here, and pass those right on this component, like handle submit on click and is active should be based on can send. Let's see what's the problem here. Actually, I'm going to call this any, so we can get rid of this. Also, right down here, FA circle arrow up, we are going to use one of the icons from the React icons, and this should be it. So let's import that here. Send btn, can send is can send. Also handle submit is going to be the same. So let me see, handle submit is a function. Yes. Alright, I think this is done. Let's see if we can get this imported here. Sorry. Let's see if we can get this imported here. And it has this stuff that it's required. So can send. Actually, we don't have the can send, so I'm just going to define that variable here, can send. If it's not loading, and type of input should be a string. Also, the length of the input should be more than 0. So in that case, the user should be able to actually send something out. We are going to need this stuff. I'm just going to import them from here. Input ref, messages, reset. We are not going to use error actually, but it's there. So handle submit. Also put ref, we need it. There is loading. What else? We need the message count, which is going to be messages.length, and also the prompt, which is the input. So there you go. This is at the top, so we should fix the styling for it. Let's go back to chat input and start styling this chat input right here. So this position should be fixed, so it should always stay here at the bottom. 0, as an index of 2, width of 100%, gap 10 pixels, flex direction should be column, margin top should be auto. That's it. Min height should be fit content, height also should be fit content. We have a transition of all 0.15 seconds, and also we have a padding bottom which is being set based on this variable has message. So if this is true, this should be 20 pixels, and if it's not, this should be 200 pixels, just like that. It's now right here. Next step, we are going to the holder, and on the holder we need another property to be passed, which is chatting. This one is going to determine if the user is in the chat state or if it's in this welcome page. So let's see. Also, we should pass down the chatting here based on the I guess, yeah, this is based on the message count. There you go. We're going to go back here and write the styling for this one. Displays should be flex, align items should be center, background color should be colors.background. We're going to set the width based on this property. If it's true, the width should be calculate 100 SVH minus 40 pixels. By this, we are actually going to kind of give 20 pixels on each side for the margins. So, and if it's not, this should be 70%. Also, the margin should for the top and the bottom should be 0, and for the sides should be auto, so it's actually placed in the center. Border radius is going to be 10 pixels. Padding, we are going to give it 10 pixels for top and bottom, nothing for the sides. We are going to give it a padding of right though, 20 pixels. Outline 2 pixels solid, and primary, and the gap of 10 pixels. Color is going to be white, and the overflow should be visible and auto. Visible and auto means it should be hidden on the horizontal scrolling, but it should be enabled on the vertical scrolling. So that's what it means. Visible for the X, auto for the Y. Alright, now we are going to style this input that is inside this holder, and we are going to use this to filter the elements, and we have a ID for it, so we are going to refer it chat input and all on set. The color is going to be white. Width is going to be 100%. Margin left 20 pixels. Font size 1.2 rem. Max height is going to be 30 pixels, and the position is going to be relative. So, and we are going to actually style the span inside it. Let me see, is there any span or not? I don't see any span here, so I'm just going to remove this one. Alright, so as you can see, this one is now working, but the styling on these elements, it's just off, so we are going to fix that. And I guess no, it's fine. Okay, let's go to the characters counter and style that too. The margin is going to be 0 and auto. For top and bottom 0, for left and right auto. The font weight is going to be 400. Font size is going to be 0.8 rem. Color is going to be white. Width is going to be fit content. Background color to colors.primary. Also padding 2 pixels, 8 pixels for the sides, gap of 3 pixels, and border radius of 10 pixels. Let's save this. As you can see, this is now fixed. Okay, let's find the problem with this button right here. Okay, so I found out the problem. Here first we need to change this. This is not related to the problem that we were having. This one, it's not related to that. This is just should be fixed. This should be transition, not transform. And here in the chat input, actually we are going to have these 2 elements inside the holder. So if I paste it here, you can see that this is now working and everything is looking good so far. So I'm going back to this chat input, and as you can see, when I click on this, it's going to update the input. So we should be covered on the input section and the send btn, and we should be ready to actually move to the next stage. Okay, so in the next step, we are going to implement an API endpoint for our front end to actually interact with. So if you come here and click inspect, and you can see here that if I type something like hi and press enter, it's going to send an API request to an address like this, which is localhost 3000 and API chat. We are going to create that endpoint and connect it to this front end. In order to do that, we have to come here, create a new folder called API and another folder called chat inside it, and create a new file called route. We are using API routes here, route.ts. If you're a bit confused with this, you could reference to the Next.js's app router and their API. Here we need to export a function by a specific naming convention like this. The function name should be one of this: post, put, delete, or any other standard kind of REST API namings here. So I'm just going to create a new function called AI chat, and I'm going to import it as default. It's an async function, and it gets request from the user. Sync. There you go, and I'm going to export default, or export const post equals to AI chat. And this is going to take care of our API routes, and it's going to be a post. It's only going to respond to post requests, not anything else. All right, in here, we first have to get the messages that the user sent to the backend. So if you come here again, you can see when I send something, hi there, it's going to send an payload, which contains which is an object and contains an array with messages. So I'm just going to destruct that object. Await request.json. This is going to parse our body into an object and get the messages from it. And here I'm going to create a new provider called Ollama from the Ollama provider, that package that we've installed before. Create Ollama, and here in the next step we are going to use this provider inside the Vercel SDK to actually connect with the Ollama's API. I'm going to create a new variable called result and use the stream text function from this AI SDK. Here we need to specify the model, so I'm going to type model equals, or actually the model is Ollama, and you're going to type in the name of your model, so you can use llama 3 here, as you can see, since we have it. If you come here in your CMD and type in Ollama list, you can see the list of models that you have in your Ollama. I can just grab any of this. I rather just to use this one here, which is Ollama 3, and pass in the messages. These are the only two things that we need to actually pass here. We could do a lot of options here, like as you can see, we can do the configs, we can change the configs here, everything. You can do anything actually here, the seed, the prompt, anything. So in the next step, I'm going to return these results and to data stream response, and it's going to take care of the response for us, and hit save. Now if we open this up and type something else like hi and press enter, you can see that this one actually sends something. And if you come here, you can see that in the response we got the response from the AI like hi, it looks like you're having a bit of fun. As you can see, these words, they should be kind of printed out here. So let's do that now that we have the API already set up. Okay, I'm going to close this one. We are going to create a new folder here called a new folder called chat, and in there I'm going to create a new file called chat folder, which is going to keep our conversation inside it. It's a component, and in the chat component it's basically a row which is going to hold all of our messages which is being generated by the AI and all of our messages inside it. And here we need to actually get the messages, and the typing for the message is the message. I'm just going to write it here. You can see that I imported it from this here, and I'm going to type it here, come down there. Actually, I'm going to kind of give this one an ID too, chat holder, and here I'm going to iterate inside the messages. So map msg, and a very standard mapping through an array in React. So here there's an important thing. We are going to separate the messages based on their roles. As you can see here, if I type in message, and the role here is one of the most important things that we are going to use, because we can, base on this role, we can detect which message is for whom. Like, did I send it, it's from AI or anything else. The user is all the messages that we send to the AI, and the assistant is the messages that come from the AI responses. The data and the system are two different stuff we are going to cover later on. Just to be said, system is something that you could give to the assistant, and it's going to affect its way of kind of interacting with the user. Like I can say to my I can say inside the system prompt that you are a teacher and you can only teach stuff about physics. Now if you go ahead and talk to this AI model, it's only going to respond and talk to you about the physics and nothing else. So system prompt is something like that. Okay, so I'm going to come here and say if the messages role is equals to assistant, I'm going to return something for now, and it's going to be a message content, and else if it's equals to user, I'm going to return the same, but we are going to change this later, and else return nothing. Actually, we don't want to show anything from those two. So this one should be working, but we need to do some styling on it. So I'm going to set the width to 100%, the height to fit content, so it stretches at the contents gets longer. Flex direction to column, so it's kind of gets down from here. And we're going to give it a gap of 20 pixels and padding of 20 pixels for the top. Sorry. For the top, for the right, for the bottom, we are going to use 130, and for the left, we are going to use 20. The reason we are using this value is because when the text just kind of gets at the bottom, it's going to be overlapped by this input. So we should consider this and push it a bit higher, so it's going to stay above it when you scroll all the way to the bottom. Okay. Now, if I save this and come back here and import this one here, we should be fine. So let's see. I'm going to actually import it above this and give it the messages and press save. There you go. As you can see, our AI is kind of responsive now. So I'm going to refresh this page, like use the math problem and send it over, and it should be working. Yeah, there you go. It's going to generate everything for us, nice and easy. The reason we get that error is because we didn't set any IDs here. So let's say key equals to msg.id, and the error should be gone now. Let's see. There you go. Now we are going to, now it's just the easy part here. We are going to style this too and add a new chat button to reset everything, and we should be good to go. But before that, let me show you some stuff that you could do here. So let's see, there is a system prompt here that you can enter. This is the exact same thing that I was talking about here. So I'm just going to give this one the same prompt that I said. So you are a teacher and can only talk about physics. I hope I wrote this down correctly, but let's see. Refresh this. Hi, let's talk about I don't know, gaming. As you can see, it's going to respond with this, that I can only talk about the physics and stuff, so it's going to evade that subject totally. You can type anything here and give your AI a role. Any other information you can provide is going to be here. There is going to be a data, I guess. I think this is the data is going to be sent from the front end, so it cannot be set here. But the system prompt is going to be set here, so users cannot influence it. They just can send the message, and it's going to follow this template. All right, now that this one is done, let's kind of create the look for the messages. So first of all, I'm just going to talk with this AI. So we have some messages here, and create a new file called you can call it user bubble, and create a function for this, which is going to take the message for from the iteration. All right, so I'm going to take the message here, and show the content of that message. Okay, now I'm going to take this, use it, which one is for the user, this one, and remove this from here and give it the message. And this should now work, so we can get back here and style our kind of bubble. I'm going to give it a padding of 10 pixels, background color of let's see, colors, I can give it primary because it's the user that's sending stuff. Border radius of 10 pixels with fit content, margin left to auto, so it could actually create a space between itself and the sides. And also white space, it's going to be pre-wrapped, so it shows the spacing correctly. And max width, I'm going to give it a max width of calc 100 SVW minus 40 pixels, because we need to have like 20 pixel margin or padding at each side. So as you can see, this is looking good. So let's say high. If we don't put the margin left, it's going to be something like this. So, and also about the width, if we don't set the width, it would probably expand like this. So those are the styling for this purpose. All right, now it's time for the AI's response. So create a new file called it response bubble, and kind of do the same thing again. Actually, I'm just going to grab this, paste it over here, but use the naming from this one and change this to, let's see, we could use this secondary, and also we need to import it here too, like this, and these two should be deleted. Import this and give it the message. Sorry, the message, and press save. As you can see, it changes, and now let's see everything is fine or not. I think we should change this to right, and sorry, I changed the user. This should be right, and this way it's all good to go, because this text is too large. It's going to take the whole place, but if it wasn't, it was going to be something like this, but on this side. So now that everything is done, we can have a button at the top of here, so it can actually help us switch back to other state, which is the first page. So we want to have a button which we click on and get to this page. In order to do that, I'm going to create a new file here called new chat and new chat btn, and actually create a component for it. This one is not going to be a React component, it's just going to be a styled components variable which is being exported. So I'm just going to define it, new chat btn equals to styled dot bottom, and we're going to style this one, and let's export this first, and we can actually import it right in the chat page. If keep that in mind, this should be shown only if the stage is on the chat, and yeah, that's all. And this button can actually have an on click, or we are going to give it a child. It's better that way. So new chat, and on click, when we click on it, it should reset everything. So let's see what we get. There you go. This is the button. We are going to make it pop at the top, but when we click on it, you can see that it takes us back to the previous page. So I'm just going to go back here, set all to unset, and let me see, display to flex, align on item center, justify content center, padding of 8 pixels and 10 pixels for the sides, left to 50%, top to 0. The cursor is going to be pointer, and we are going to have a border radius of let's see, 0, 0, 10 pixels. So for the top left, it's going to be 0, top right 0, but for the bottom left and the bottom right, we are going to use 10 pixels. Now we are going to set the color to white. If I press save, you can see it changed, and the position should be fixed because we want to fix it at the top. So if I set this to fixed, you can see that it's right at the top, but it's a bit to the right. So we should have to transform it, translate it back a bit, minus 50%, minus 80%, something like this. And we are going to set a box shadow here. sorry, not the box sizing, box shadow to RGBA. This is just the color that I'm entering. You can adjust this one as you wish, as any other component actually in this tutorial. Alright, so I'm going to set the width to 100%, or actually 100 pixels, and height of 20 pixels, transition to all, 0.15 seconds, and also a background color of colors dot new bottom that we have around here. Now you can see if I hover over it, there is nothing going to happen, so we should take care of that. And we are going to just transform it back to the bottom a bit. So translate -50%, and this time it's going to be 0. And also we might want to, let's see, I missed this one. And if I save, you can see that it comes bottom. This should not be transformed, this should be transition. And there you go. You can click on it and it takes you back to the previous page or the home page. So as you can see, everything is done here, and we have built ourselves a local AI which is totally free. It has no any extra cost, and it doesn't send anything over the internet, which kind of guarantees the security, which is because everything is happening on your computer at the moment. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you like this video, please share, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to provide a lot of more videos on this topic. Also, I have some projects in my mind which I would like to create a video about it for you guys. And please, if you have anything in mind, any question, any suggestion for the next videos, or you want me to make this chatbot better, like if I say create a Python code to log random numbers, you can see it's going to create the Python for me, but it's not actually looking good. You can kind of mark that text, so it would look a lot better. But if you like to know a bit more about this stuff, please comment, and I'm going to make a video about it for you guys. Take care.